In Perth, there's hardly a week goes by that a new section of bike path doesn't open up. And today we're going to have a look at a new section which opened up in Northbridge this week. And the only reason I really want to show you this is that prior to it opening up, this had the most comically bad detour of just about any construction site that I've encountered in Perth so far. And, I hopped onto the path here on the day it opened. The paint was still so fresh I could smell it. If you've ever ridden on one of these green paths after the green surface has been put down, you'll know what I mean. It's almost a kind of a diesely smell. But if we go back to September the 11th, this shows what the detour looked like originally. And they closed off part of the road, but it was really confusing where cyclists were supposed to go, and even for pedestrians where they were supposed to go, because the signage wasn't particularly clear at several points where you were supposed to be, and they really forgot about cyclists entirely. So initially when they created this detour, we were sent across this side of the road, and in fact the first time I tried this detour, I went down this pathway which I think led to the basement of a building, and kind of messed that up completely. And we were then sent around the city side of the worksite. Just completely terrible signage about where you're supposed to go, as well as not providing terribly wide paths for pedestrians and cyclists and scooter riders and everyone else that wants to get onto this fairly major path which goes down to East Perth. Anyway, we're not going to follow this path all the way. Let's go and have another look. And this is now November 30, so a month and a half later. And I learnt my lesson. Don't go out onto that road and end up in that disaster area. Cut through this kind of pedestrian mall and join the detour halfway through. And that makes life a heck of a lot easier. What we're looking at here on the right is the Horseshoe Bridge, which goes over the railway line, which has been mostly buried. But anyway, they put this detour in along here. And it goes back and forth, not a heck of a lot of signage, and not terribly wide in places either. If there were cyclists coming at each other in opposite directions, one of you would have to give way to the other. And of course this was the day, or a couple of days after it opened actually, and I knew it was there, so I thought, okay, I'm going to ride down it, even though I'm riding the wrong way. And the reason I'm showing this is they at least got the surface treatment right first time round. I should have hopped off the bike and put my camera down at ground level to show you the wonderful roughness of the surface. They really went over the top in making it a very non-slip green surface. There's no way you'd go for a slip and slide on that stuff. It was pretty awesome and smelly. So much better than some of the paths we've had done in Sydney, where they put down something that's almost a high gloss finish, and as soon as it rains it's as slippery as an oiled pig on an ice rink covered in ball bearings. So just another view here. This was interesting just in showing you that at one point the detour took you round the other side of the worksite rather than the city side, so they kind of flip-flop back and forth, and each time they did it, poor signage showing you where to go, no staff directing you. Sometimes with these sites they'll actually have somebody there that will stick their arm out and point you in the right direction. None of those kind of niceties with this. It was just throw up a whole pile of fencing, don't really care too much about where the fencing goes, don't care about whether the path they've created is wide enough, don't care about obstructions of the path, blah blah blah. Essentially barely adequate for pedestrians and really quite inadequate for cyclists. And remember, one of the main, two of the main cycling routes kind of join on this section, coming from the east and coming from the west. So, it's not like they just did this in the middle of nowhere where there's no cyclist around. This is the equivalent of, this is a really heavily trafficked area. That lady there just strolled out in front of a bus. The bus driver gave me the shrug of, what the hell? It's like, they step out in front of us too. So look, just a final look at this new section of path and how nice it is. I actually haven't ridden it properly in both directions yet. I should try and do that before I go. Just to reiterate what a good job they did on the surface. So even if the detour was an absolute debacle for a couple of months, the end product actually looks pretty nice. So there will be some more reviews on some other bits of path that are getting built, but yeah, sometimes they get it right over here with detours, and sometimes they make an absolute hash of it.